Our planet could be approaching a treacherous tipping point, a catastrophic event beyond the horizon.
Silence now.
We can do a pretty good job of healing the harm if we take action now. We know what to do. So what are we waiting for?
There's power in us, we call it darkness, we call it love. There's power in love, we call it nature, we call it us.
A very sustainable future will require active public, private, and people sector collaboration across the world. So today, this historical event is made possible by the generous support of CDL. So right now, let's hear from CDL's Group CEO, Mr. Sherman Kwek, on why and how the private sector can play a key role to tackle the climate emergency. Unfortunately, he's not able to be with us in person today, so we're going to be listening to a pre-recorded message.
Dr. Jane Goodall, Dr. Sylvia Earle, Excellencies, partners, distinguished guests, and colleagues, a very good afternoon to everyone. My apologies for not being able to join you in person due to an overseas business commitment. On behalf of the CDL board and management, thank you for attending this momentous event. This is the first time Dr. Goodall and Dr. Earle are sharing the stage together in Singapore, and what a fantastic treat for us. Jane and Sylvia, thank you for your tireless efforts in pushing for nature preservation and environmental conservation, which have raised global awareness and inspired many people. CDL is honored to host today's event to celebrate your incredible journeys for over 60 years and your dedication to protecting life on land and in the ocean. Our planet faces unprecedented environmental challenges, from climate change and biodiversity loss to ocean pollution and natural resource depletion. More than ever, we must find ways to live in harmony with nature, embracing the deep connections between our ocean, land, and humanity. Everything and everyone are interconnected in the circle of life. Singapore's commitment to sustainability is exemplified by the Singapore Green Plan 2030, which outlines an ambitious roadmap based on 5 key pillars comprising city and nature, sustainable living, energy reset, green economy, and resilient future. In particular, the city and nature pillar aims to restore nature in urban environments, aligning with Dr. Goodall and Dr. Earle's message on fostering harmony between humanity and nature. Dr. Goodall's pioneering research on chimpanzees since 1960 has transformed our understanding of the natural world, and Dr. Earle's mission to preserve the ocean has influenced scientific research and reshaped global perspectives on marine conservation. At CDL, we understand the vital connection between the planet and its inhabitants. Within the building and construction sector, it's responsible for nearly 40% of global carbon emissions, and we aim to drive meaningful change. CDL's first encounter with Dr. Goodall was in 2019 when she was in Singapore for the launch of the Jane Goodall Institute Singapore, or JGIS for short, Conserve Action Week. I had the pleasure of hosting her during the JGIS fundraising gala dinner. During the same trip, in collaboration with NUS, we also proudly supported the 7th Asia Environment Lecture, where Dr. Goodall captivated a crowd of 2,000 attendees with a powerful message of conservation and coexistence. More recently, we had the privilege of Dr. Earle attending the opening of 2 of our climate action exhibitions. The first one was on Change the Present, Save the Ocean in 2022, when I had the opportunity to meet her for the first time, and the second one was on melting ice sinking cities in 2023. Both exhibitions were held at our Zero Energy CDL Green Gallery at the Singapore Botanic Gardens, where Dr. Earle lent a strong voice to the ocean and its ecosystem, emphasizing the interconnection between the health of our ocean and the well-being of our people and our planet. Both these remarkable women have shown that a sustainable future requires the right balance between human needs and ecological imperatives. We must coexist peacefully with the natural world, protect our forests and oceans, reduce our carbon footprint, and build partnerships for positive change. Today's event highlights the power of collaboration. By supporting JGIS and Ocean Geographic, we are investing in a healthier planet and a brighter future. Every dollar raised through this event will aid critical conservation efforts, groundbreaking scientific research, and impactful education programs, all contributing to positive change for our planet's future. In closing, I would like to thank Jane and Sylvia for your over 6 decades of leadership in protecting our green and blue planet. You truly inspire us all. To everyone here, we appreciate your generosity and support. Together, we are creating a world where nature and humanity can exist in harmony for generations to come. Thank you and enjoy the event.
Thank you, Mr. Quek, for the meaningful message. Next up, we would like to invite Mr. Michael Earle, founder of Ocean Geographic, one of CDL's NGO partners for this event, and he'll say a few words and share more about this event's Net Zero Pledge. So please scan the QR code while we welcome Mr. Michael Earle to the stage. Mr. Earle, please.
Thank you, everyone. DPM Heng Sukit, Dr. Jane Goodall, Deepness, Dr. Sylvia Earle, dignitaries and delegates, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. So here we are. What are we doing here? We are here to encourage everyone to make a pledge for a healthy planet, a pledge for global net zero by 2035. Why are we doing this? Why do we need to do this? So, our planet has reached a disastrous moment in time. In the last 15 months, global temperature has been above 1.5 degrees Celsius, above pre-industrial level. What it means that, for all of us, is that we are heading towards a climate Armageddon, and basically, our planet will become more or less inhabitable. Now, this is a chart from 2nd December. I've been to the Arctic about 10 times. This is about 80 degrees north, 79 to 80 degrees north. Where you see the blue around those islands, the island of Svalbard, there's hardly any ice. A friend called me just a few days ago. He said she's very worried. Why is she worried? Because about many female polar bears are waiting to give birth. They couldn't find ice to then. They're going to give us in just less than about a month. So, mothers in this room, imagine 1 month before you give birth, you don't have a home to go to, don't have a hospital to go to. That is frightening, very frightening. What's becoming of the Arctic? Last year I was there in June. Average temperature is about 5.5 degrees Celsius, 4 degrees Celsius higher than normal. On one morning, we had a temperature of 27 degrees Celsius. I was on t-shirt and shorts. This is the high Arctic. The animal there, polar bear, ivory gull, do not know what's happening to their home. We do. We have to speak up for nature. We have to speak up for polar bear. And that's why we ask everyone today to pledge for nature, sign a pledge for global net zero by 2035. Last year, Dr. Earle, Esther Ann, about 120 expert minds from engineers, politicians, economists, musicians, artists went down to the Antarctic to face global warming in motions, to develop resolutions for us to attain net zero by 2035. 2050 is too late. So we started debating even before we go. After the trips of 10, 12 days, we came up with 8 simple resolutions how we can preserve a healthy planet to take us to net zero by 2035. These are the resolutions. Protect marine ecosystem and implement climate-smart protected areas from sea floor to sea surface. Demand the end of fossil fuel extraction. Draw upon coastal stakeholders and indigenous experience, knowledge, and wisdom in ocean conservation. Create a circular economy at all levels. Achieve renewable energy productions that does not harm our natural environment. Communicate the urgency of ocean climate crisis in ways that lead to actions. Reduce wastage and maximize food proficiency. This to me is very close to my heart. Empower youth and create space for the next generation to lead. Children have the power to save our planet, but they have to be empowered. I thank CDL for giving us this platform today to share our pledge and to have Dr. Earle and Dr. Jane Goodall on the same stage. It's a dream come true, and I feel very humbled to be on stage doing this. So our 2 legends, our 2 icons have signed, and now it's your turn. So take your phone out. Everybody point the phone at me. No, not at me, at that. And sign away. Share this within your space of friends and families and schoolmates, etc., and encourage everyone, to live a sustainable lifestyle to take us to net zero. You're doing this not just for yourself. You're doing this for your future loved one. You're doing this for humanity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Michael Au. So right now is the moment we've all been waiting for. We are honored to have with us 2 very exceptional women champions for the planet, Dr. Jane Goodall and Dr. Sylvia Earle. So we're so lucky to have the 2 legends here with us here in Singapore, right? Yeah, so I'm sure you're all really excited to hear them speak. So if you also have any questions that you'd like to ask them for the dialogue later on, you can scan the QR code at the sides of the room right now to submit some questions. Thank you so much, Dr. Earle. What an incredible journey you've been on. I'd like to invite you to remain on stage with me as we prepare for the next segment of the program. Oh, you can stand a little forward just in case because we've got chairs set up over here. So may I also invite Dr. Jane along with moderators Miss Esther and Chief Sustainability Officer of CDL, and she's also one of 2023 Time 100 Climate Leaders in Business. I would also like to invite Dr. Sean Lam, Nature Society Singapore's former president and senior lecturer at NTU's Asian School of the Environment. May I invite all of you up on stage, please, to join the dialogue of the century. So everyone, please put your hands together for all of these amazing people as we begin the dialogue.
Okay, hi, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Jane, thank you, Sylvia, for making our dream come true. And just before COVID, Michael and I have some, climate meeting, and then we came up with this idea that how about we put the 2 legendary, heroines on stage together. And then COVID stole everything. And that was after the Antarctic expedition, we brought back this idea again. And very quickly, I talked to Andy earlier this year, and here we are. And this is the Singapore pace of action. Thank you so much for having 1,400 people here, and we're really happy. And some in the audience actually flew in just for this occasion. We are really, truly thankful. And without further ado, I would like to pass the mic to my partner, and we hope to have a very meaningful conversation that every one of you will pledge for net zero and take action in your own right. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you, everyone. Dr. Jane, Dr. Earle, amazing presentations. Thank you. Just wanted to start, well, first thing, I actually want to start by apologizing. There's a couple of my students, I think Cheryl, Belna, you took my conservation class this past semester. I should have just made you read the Lorax. It would have been just as probably better, you know, but, so apologies. Dr. Jane, quick question for you. And the way we first sort of crafted it was really to try to understand what some of the challenges you faced, maybe going as a young researcher starting out from urban London to Gombe, which was still Tanganyika, wasn't it? But maybe in a more general sense, what were some of the main challenges that you've faced? And it could have been back in the early days or even now that you, as a personal challenge to you.
Well, I would say, Sean, the biggest challenge over all time has been getting enough money. Because, you know, you can't, there were things that one could have done if there was more money. Today, we could grow roots and shoot around the world if there was more money. And we must, because, as I said, it is my biggest reason for hope. These young people, once they understand the problems and we empower them to take action and we let them choose what they want to do so that they approach it with passion. But, you know, although it's in 71 countries, in many of those countries it's quite small, and they have to get money to employ at least one person to oversee the program. Otherwise, it's just volunteers who have their own lives to live. So money, of course, in the early days, chimps running away, the terrain is difficult, but basically, you know, I was lucky.
Well, Dr. Earle, apart from resources that we all need in order to drive action, and deep sea diving, and we saw all the video images, it may look beautiful, but I'm sure there were risks as well. So what were the most memorable challenges or risks that you have overcome over your past 6 decades of deep sea researching? And maybe you can encourage, you know, some in the audience, I know they are all diving, you know, enthusiasts, and any tips for them to overcome certain, you know, risk or fear and, you know, follow your footsteps? Yeah.
Well, it's really, really frustrating not to have gills. I think this, yeah, can you hear me all right this way? Gills. Don't you all wish you had gills? I mean, it's access to the ocean. I mean, we've been able to look skyward and make wishes come true, even to go to the moon, maybe someday to Mars. More people have been to the moon until quite recently than have been to the deepest part of the ocean. I mean, that to me is one of the great reasons to be a 21st century human being, that we're right on the edge of what is the greatest era of exploration. And the deeper we go into the sea, the less we know, but the more new discoveries we're finding. And I mean, I think the 21st century kids are the luckiest ones ever to come along. And if I had to choose, I mean, I'm great to have experienced what I've experienced, but, you know, hang on. The best is right ahead, including finding our place within the natural systems that make possible our very existence. What a wonderful goal, that we couldn't do it before, we just simply did not know enough. And so I just wish I could start out right now and be a part of the best action that there ever could be.
Well, actually, last year we have the honors to be part of the Antarctic climate expedition, and in your documentary, 2099 Power in Us, we have a lot of young people to talk about their wishes and resolutions. So you mentioned there are more whales in the ocean now than in previous decades. And what are some of the milestones that you have given you the hope that we should still continue to explore and do and conserve the ocean?
It works. When you stop killing and start caring, good things happen. It makes all the difference. Now, I wholeheartedly embrace the concept of planting 1 trillion trees, especially if it's the right kind of tree in the right place and you take care of it and it belongs where you put it. But restoration is really hard as compared to taking care of the distillation of all of preceding time that's invested in a place, whether it's on the land or in the sea. The last wild places should be our highest priority, places that are still in pretty good shape, or really that are pristine. In the ocean, the deep sea, the high seas, the best chance our species will ever have is to embrace those still intact places with care, as if our lives depend on it, because they really do. And then anything we have left over, let's restore what we can, but realize, like here in Singapore, find our place within nature. Here, much of nature was lost, but you've saved some of what was there, old growth, and you're restoring what you can. If we could just get the world to shape up and understand, finding our place within the natural systems that make possible our very existence, we can succeed. I think we're perilously close to being on a roll, but let's roll in the right direction, because it could go the other way.
Thank you.
No, yeah, Dr. Sylvia. Again, Dr. Jane, here I have to confess, I've been watching your documentary since those early National Geographic ones, and I've had the chance to meet you on a few visits here to Singapore. I did not know until today that you had gone through a marine exploration phase after reading Jules Verne. So that was a revelation to me. But the other thing was interesting too is that, from my own perspective as a ecologist, we are in a way forced to specialize. Are you a marine ecologist, terrestrial one? Are you a botanist? Are you a zoologist? And I think that both of you are among the few who from very early on have been speaking of kind of holistic approaches to saving the planet. And I think for you, Dr. Jane, how do you see, how do you envision coming up with solutions, promoting solutions that emphasize the kind of interdependence of land and sea, in your experience?
Well, I think, since the entire planet is one whole, that clearly the effect of the sea on the land, on the sea, water rises up out of the sea and it descends on the land, and the land pollutes it and sends it back down the rivers filled with industrial, household and agricultural waste to pollute the ocean. And the cycle goes around and around. And the ocean absorbs CO2 until it absorbs too much and becomes acidic. And the forests absorb the ocean, the kelp forests in the ocean absorb CO2, seagrass absorbs CO2, the wetlands and the grasslands and the prairies and peat, they all absorb CO2. And we're destroying all of them. And what we destroy on the land, we cut down the trees, then we get soil erosion, then we get all this industrial agriculture is responsible for so much damage. with its chemical pesticides and herbicides and artificial fertilizer, just killing the very soil on which we rely. Yes, we rely on the ocean, but we rely on the soil too. What's going to happen if the soil is all washed into the ocean or blown away in the desert sandstorms because of erosion? So it really is one interrelated ecosystem, the ocean, the forests, and all the other areas of our planet. And you know, what you asked earlier about the problems that I've faced. There was one thing I forgot to say, and I think because people may have been wondering about these little people here, I should add this. And that was, you know, when I first went to Cambridge and was told I'd done everything wrong and that animals couldn't have personalities, minds, or emotions, and, you know, animal intelligence was totally downplayed. And now, yes, we know that chimpanzees, other apes, whales, elephants are highly intelligent. There's lots of work on that. But now we have Craig Foster making a film called My Octopus Teacher, emphasizing the intelligence of octopuses. And of course, we know about that from octopuses also in captivity. But we're learning. Now, rats don't have a very good reputation, right? They actually are incredibly intelligent. They make amazing pets. But Ratty represents the giant forest rat of Africa. And with their amazing sense of smell, they are able to detect landmines buried deep under the soil left after Africa's long civil wars. They've more or less cleared Mozambique of landmines. They're working in Angola, Cambodia, and other places. They're now being taught, and I've watched them being taught, they're taught in Tanzania, and they can climb up into the containers in the ports, and they can sniff out illegal animal trafficking, the remains of animals or live animals. They can go down after a bomb or an earthquake, search through the rubble. If they find a living person, they ring a little bell around their neck. And so somebody can go and try and rescue that person. Pigs. Some of you probably know pigs are as intelligent as dogs. She's representing Picasso. Not Picasso the artist. Picasso, rescued from slaughter by a woman who has a little farm sanctuary. And she noticed that this pig was fascinated when she was painting. So one day she set up an easel, she put a paintbrush with paint in the pig's mouth, and the pig started to paint. You can Google Picasso. Her paintings are selling for more than $5,000. And people say, oh, what an amazing pig. The point I want to make, Picasso is an amazing pig. She's been given the opportunity to prove how amazing pigs are. And this is your bacon, your pork. Every pig you eat has the same intelligence, the same ability to do things like making paintings. So one of the obstacles I've come up against is trying to fight the way that people demean animals still, not just in intensive animal farming, which is so cruel you cannot imagine, but in our medical research labs, where we're using monkeys. Monkeys now, so many monkeys because of COVID. And it's horrendous, and we don't need it. This is the point I want to make. There are alternatives to using animals in just about every form of animal testing in medicine, and they're more reliable and they're cheaper. And it's been shown again and again that very little animal research has benefited people at all. And it's the same with you like your meat. Well, go vegan and you'll find an alternative to meat, and I defy you to to choose which is the real meat and which is the artificial meat. So these are the problems that I'm fighting now.
I mean, same thing with, yeah.
lovely story about that.
Just a footnote, fish are meat too.
Sylvia, you've reminded me. Do you know that goldfish are being taught to play football? You can Google that too. It's a Chinese man. There's 3 or 4 fish this end of the tank and the other end, and 2 little goals. And these ones try and push the ball this way, and those ones try and push it. Watch it. It's amazing. So it's not just that fish are food, like pigs are food, but it's that fish have this amazing intelligence. It's only just being uncovered.
Yeah.
I was just going to say this reminds me, where I was listened to a talk given by you, Dr. Earle, once, and you said, even, at least on land, when we talk about wildlife, we call it biodiversity, but once they're in the sea, it's just called seafood, right? So it's the perspective is just so different, isn't it?
Yes, precisely. And Dr. Earle, you have many words of wisdom. The one that I remember most that is actually no water, no life. No blue, no green. So definitely blue and green are all interconnected. In your 6 decades of, deep diving and all that?
It's just that water, fresh water, water. All life needs water. Those, they call themselves exobiologists, those who want to find life elsewhere in the universe. What do they look for? Water. And most of Earth's water is ocean. It's where most of life on Earth actually exists. And what an opportunity for the kids coming along to get to know this planet from the inside out, or top down, wherever, to pull it all together. It is one interacting system, as Jane has eloquently illustrated. It's not blue here, green there. It's one living planet. And that's the key. It's alive, not just rocks and water. Rocks, water, plus time, a lot of it. 4.5 billion years, and here we are. It's taken us about 4.5 decades to significantly unravel what it has taken all the ages before to assemble in our favor. This is a pretty good planet for humans. It wasn't 1 billion years ago, but it is today. Well, it still is. Our job is to not lose what we've got.
Well, in your newly published memoir, Souls, you also mentioned that you have really spent, your lifelong experience in the sea, and what you have actually seen the oceans evolve. And as the voice of the ocean, what would you want to tell, people about climate change is affecting the ocean, and what exactly have you seen the evolvement over the last 6 decades?
How long do we have? I'll just say this, that I get asked a lot about okay, I get it, we've got some problems. What can I do, right? And I'm looking at a lot of reasons for hope right there. And I cannot tell anybody, any of you, what you can do. So I really think you need to ask yourself that question, what can I do? Look in the mirror, say, who am I? What have I got? I know there are talents in here. I know the talents that some of you have personally, with photography, with art, with music, a way with words, a way with kids, a way with animals. No one is the same. That's part of our power. It's part of the power of life, the individuality of all fish, all primates, ourselves included. It's looking at the problems and figuring out what piece of it you can do something about. Nobody can do it alone. Jane's doing a pretty good job all by herself. But she cannot do it unless others are inspired to pick up their piece of it and do what each can. And together, just imagine if we started moving in the same direction toward protecting nature, toward what do we eat, what do we wear, how do we travel, whatever it is that we do that is within this list of problems that we now know what the problems are, but we know what the solutions are. And I wouldn't get discouraged because you can't do it all, but you can all do something. Kids especially.
Dr. Goodall, you have something to share?
Which is the message of our Roots and Shoots program. Every single individual makes an impact every single day. We all need to do our bit.
Yes.
That's the key message. Yes. And it's happening.
Definitely. That's why this today's program, we call it Hope and Harmony. And that is exactly the next sessions that we are going to talk about. Sean?
Well, yeah, no, so again, Esther, thank you. So I've read these recent studies, so a few that on the state of nature, for example. So the most recent Living Planet report says that wildlife have decreased 70% since 1970. So that's even within my lifetime. And then we had a cat once. She lived to 19, and in the lifetime of the cat, most of the forests of Southeast Asia disappear. I mean, we're converted. I mean, it's so easy to just feel distressed, depressed about some of this, and yet the two of you continue to, you are the biggest purveyors of hope that we have, and so where do you get your motivation from, and what would you advise, again, young people and the young at heart in this audience, what would you advise us? You did say, be determined, don't give up, but in a practical sense, what can we do?
Okay, practical sense for young people, join Roots and Shoots. No, but my reasons for hope that I'm always talking about, and one I've already mentioned, the power, determination, courage of young people once they know the problems, and we empower them to take action. And at this point, by the way, a little diversion, I truly want to congratulate those 3 young people who did the Lorax, because, at that age, to learn everything you learn, to deliver it so perfectly. And I love the Lorax. I've seen it acted before. It's an amazing story that everybody should read. And anyway, so thank you for doing it so beautifully at such a young age. You have a great career ahead of you if you wish to go on the stage.
So that's the thing. I watched the performance, which was brilliant, but I thought, what am I doing? I should retire already. These guys are doing much better than I am.
But anyway, reasons for hope. One reason for hope is that far more people now are aware. Far more people are aware. And even big corporations are beginning to change. And it was right here in Singapore, I gave a talk to a whole bunch of CEOs. I think they came from around the world. I don't know, it was on Zoom in COVID days. And one of them afterwards said to me, Jane, I promise you for the last 8 years, I've really, really been trying to get my company to be more sustainable in the countries where we source our products, in the way that we try and get a sustainable supply line, although that's very difficult. And in the what was the last one? The way that we operate in our offices with each other, and the way we treat our customers. And he said there were 3 reasons. One, I saw the writing on the wall. I saw that in some places we're using up natural resources faster than nature can replenish them. And consumer pressure. People are beginning to ask questions. How was this product made? Did it harm the environment? Was it cruel to animals like factory farming? Is it cheap because of unfair wages? And then they're beginning to look for more ethical products, which might cost a bit more, probably will, but if it costs a bit more, won't we value it more and waste less? Because human waste is a huge global problem. And we're wasting food while people are starving. It upsets me every time I sit down to a meal to think of the people who have nothing. Anyway, but he said, the thing that tipped the balance for me was my little girl coming home from school one day, and she said, Daddy, they tell me that what you're doing is harming the planet. That's not true, is it, Daddy? Because it's my planet. That reached the heart. And I truly believe the only way we can really create change in people is not by arguing with them or pointing out that they're bad people or what they're doing wrong or what they should be doing right, but a story to reach the heart. So it's when head and heart work in harmony, then we can attain our true human potential. And it's beginning to happen. We started Roots and Shoots in '91, and some of what I call our alumni are already in decision-making positions, and it shows they retain the values of compassion and respect that are so very important.
I think it's happening in this room as you both speak also, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
definitely.
quickly, the other reason for hope that you mentioned, Sylvia, that I always talk about, the resilience of nature. I have the luck of going around the world meeting incredible people and seeing places that we've completely destroyed, given another chance. If you fly over Gombe today, you won't see bare hills anymore. Thanks to Takari program, they've understood protecting the environment isn't just for wildlife, it's also for their own future. Animals on the brink of extinction can be given another chance. It happens in the sea life as well. Animals have rebounded back like the whales. And you know, my final reason for hope is the indomitable human spirit, and that's why I carry Mr. H around with me, given to me 33 years ago by a man called Gary Horn, who thought that he was giving me a stuffed chimp for my birthday. And I took his hand and made him hold the tail. Gary, chimps don't have tails. Gary. So Gary made that mistake because at 21, he went blind, totally blind. And for some odd reason, he decided he wanted to become a magician. And everybody said, Gary, you can't be a magician if you're blind. The children don't know he's blind. And at the end of his show, he'll tell them and say, things may go wrong in your life because you never know, but don't give up, there's always a way forward. And he does skydiving. He does cross-country skiing. He's been down with great white sharks in a cage, and people say, what's the point of going down if you can't see the shark? He says, if you're not blind, you cannot imagine the huge change in water pressure as that huge body goes by you. And I think most amazing of all, he's taught himself to paint. And I have a portrait of Mr. H, which he's never seen, only felt.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goodall. And I can assure you that the corporates are actually stepping up here in the audience. We have a lot of corporates who are working very hard on greening their products. And in fact, you know, the policymaker, they are also setting the example. They are going to publish their sustainability report next year. So what get measured, get managed. So we need public sector, private sector, people sector to all work together. And just one more question for you, Dr. Earle, that, you know, you talk about the twilight. That is hope that you discover. So for us as an advocate, we always say never say never. We always have hope. Maybe you can share with us, what you discover, that, so thousands of, 200 meter to 1,000 meter below the sea. What is that? What does that bring new hope to humanity?
Well, Jane and I agree, and I think probably everyone in this room agrees that the best reason for optimism about the future are the kids coming along. But there's another element to it, and that is some of us are past the point of being called a kid, but there's a kid inside of everyone, no matter how many decades you've layered on. Being able to have an experience that recovers that sense of wonder, that sense of awe, that sense of joy in being alive, that provokes you to ask questions. Who, what, why, where? I mean, just what kids naturally do. It's still there. If by providing incentive to get into a situation, whether it's going into a wilderness area where you've never been, or whether it's just putting on a face mask and looking at the ocean that you've never seen before, or getting into a little submarine to go where, sadly, few people so far have been privileged to go. Imagine if people had not, at this stage, if no one had been high in the sky, if aviation had not come along to give us the ability not just to get from here to there, but to witness Earth from high above, to see our homes with that perspective. The ocean is home for most of life on Earth, and we're just beginning to nibble around the edges of it, to get to understand it, to see it for what it really is. It's a living system populated with a history of life on Earth, with creatures that have been around for hundreds of millions of years, and they're still here. I mean, I'm talking jellyfish, I'm talking starfish, I'm talking about this whole spectrum of life that has no counterpart in any terrestrial place. It's all still there in the ocean, but we're just beginning at this. This is, I think, the greatest time ever to be a kid of any age, because of the opportunity to get to experience, for the first time in all of our history, the ability to actually see the origin of life itself, to understand that we have microscopes that can enable us to see the very small, right down to the elements of life itself, as well as the ability to look at this overview and to just think how fortunate we are that even the smartest people who ever lived before right about now could not know what the kids inside of all of us, and especially those who will be around till the end of this century and beyond. This is what excites me, what drives me, what has, I think, many of us gathered here, wanting to do everything possible to be a part of that movement that will shift this trajectory that looks like a lot of trouble ahead for us. We have the power to change in the right direction. I mean, reason for hope, there it is. I'm looking at it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Goodall and Dr. Earle. And you won't believe these two ladies are, going around the world non-stop and have tireless, promoting, advocating the conservation of the world, the planet, and they have so many events that we won't be able to have them for too long more, and now we have to close the event, and well, I want to, wrap it up with, what you have said before, that Dr. Earle, that we still have a really good chance to make things better than they are, and but they won't get better unless, it's like Lorex say, unless, we take the action and inspire others to do the same.
Somebody like you.
Oh, thank you so much, thank you. And Sean, you have words of wisdom from Dr. Jane?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to share with everyone a couple of quotes that you, Dr. Jane, had said, that the greatest danger to our future is apathy, that every individual matters, every individual has a role to play, every individual makes a difference, and that was from you. And another quote from you is that you once said, change happens by listening and by starting a dialogue with the people who are doing something. So I can't speak, well, I think I speak for everybody that it's been so amazing to have both of you here with us today to share. And I'm hoping that we can take your experience, your wisdom, and more than that, your love for that natural world, and really turn it into action the moment we step out of this room. So I want to thank
At this note, please
all of
join
you,
us
yes,
to thank the two ladies for making history in Singapore.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Dane, Dr. Earle, Miss Anne, and Dr. Lam, for this enlightening and inspiring conversation. I would like to invite you guys to please remain on stage and do come forward a little bit as the chairs and tables are being taken away. Do be careful. Yeah, so we're gonna prepare for the next segment. So as please remain on stage, everyone. Please. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry, Dr. Jane. Okay, so right now we're gonna be moving on to our next segment.
Our planet could be approaching a treacherous tipping point, a catastrophic event beyond the horizon.
Silence now.
We can do a pretty good job of healing the harm if we take action now. We know what to do. So what are we waiting for?
There's power in us, we call it darkness, we call it love. There's power in love, we call it nature, we call it us.